Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Mad Realms Talking Skritt. I'm your host this week, Jim, and it's wonderful to meet you all, and we have a fantastic show for you this afternoon. We have voiceover updates from ArenaNet, we've got a rundown on the Frost Citadel meta event, and a couple of choice, interesting concepts coming from the forums, but first, I have to get to my fellow co-hosts as I hit back on my browser and I lose my intros. She writes and streams for MMORPG.com and is currently preparing for her roar-off with the Claw of Jormag. Say hello to Robin.
Hi. I'm sorry. It's hilarious already. Yay.
Okay, and he streams over on Twitch, where he answers the age-old question, if the Claw of Jormag falls in the mountains and no one is around to hear it, does it make a sound? Say hello to Age.
I'm going to say it makes a sound. Hello, friends. Welcome to the show.
Is it that kind of sound? Because I'm cool with that.
We're gonna party tonight.
Okay, it's that kind of show. Got it. And from PvP builds to new elite spec ideas, she's got content galore, Guild Wars 2 and otherwise. Say hello to KROOF.
Hi, everyone. You wanted crazy? I'll show you crazy. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
We're happy to have you. Okay, so
Yay.
I'm actually using like the scene transition stuff in Streamlabs OBS. I feel all professional and shit. But let's get right into it as I hit back on things again. If you scroll wheel while holding Alt, it's back. And if you scroll up, it's forward. And Alt is my push to talk key, so I'm going to be doing this the whole show.
Oh, good grief.
Good to know.
So, our first update is we've got updates on voiceovers from ArenaNet. Jormag Rising will have no voiceovers. The Fractal will, though, because ArenaNet's audio team has figured out ways to deliver audio recording kits to their voice actors. To quote the article, we're recording the most immediate upcoming content first, the new Fractal, so you can experience it with voice acting right away. We'll also record the voiceover for No Quarter and Jormag Rising cinematics. In September, we'll work on recording the remainder of the content for episodes 3 and 4. And when we add the English VO for the content, we will add the French and German VO at the same time. So, yay. And while I get the link to the blog post there into chat, what are your thoughts on it?
Yay.
You know what? I'm just so glad that they have revolutionized, and I really hope that they share this knowledge with other game studios because it is very niche. But I'm excited for Guild Wars 2. I mean, like, I never really thought that they were going to do this necessarily. I know other studios have been doing it, so people were kind of disappointed that ArenaNet wasn't. But I also understand that they have a different work ethic or a workflow. But it probably kind of came down to it, and they were like, you know, this is COVID in America is probably going to be lasting longer than, you know, everyone would like. So they're probably going to be like, we need to bite the bullet and just do it regardless. So I'm excited, of course. You know, it's nice to get it back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes a huge difference not having it.
I mean, the only thing I worry about is, I'm assuming the kits, I don't remember if they went into what the kits were in the blog post. But I'd imagine it might be actually recording hardware in some cases, because I don't know how many people actually have like recording quality stuff in their homes or even a place to record.
Well, like, I always wonder because, like, as we were talking about in pre-show, like, issues with sound and stuff, like, I wonder if the kits are something about how to make a soundproof space or sound reduce space in your house or whatever too, because that can be a significant issue as well.
I wonder if they gave him like condenser mics or stuff like that.
Maybe.
Probably. I mean, most voice actors, and I think a majority of the voice actors ArenaNet uses, they've been in this business and they have, the chops, probably from home, because most voice actors will probably start from home, and kind of build from there. So it's always nice for talent to have a closet space kind of set up to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Now the level of quality can probably vary, and it's going to be kind of interesting if like one character is like speaking and the audio quality is like so vastly different. I kind of would really enjoy that, just for the humorous, like kind of raw experience of it. It's kind of endearing, but
it wouldn't be a great overall,
Yeah.
And
I feel like they wouldn't be doing this if they didn't have at least a reasonable amount of confidence that won't be the case,
Yeah.
And
they could be wild though. They could be going crazy. Like cars going in the background and all that stuff.
Let's see what happens.
Oh, so we're going straight up Monty Python Holy Grail on this, with like planes flying overhead.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's
just a game.
I do have to agree with Kitten though. This is very early. Like, I did not expect the voiceovers to be coming in at all.
No.
And it's great that it's happening. I'm super happy about it. Just was not expecting it.
I think it's like what Cruz said. They realized that COVID's going to last a little longer. So it's like, can you have 3 to 4 episodes not with no voice? Because I think the community has been very vocal about how it's very different, how it takes away from it. So
yeah, one thing on that is I remember at one point there were people in the community who, like, before all of this happened, when they started doing more and more voiceover and like integrated it more into everything, they talked about it and how they were really excited to like be able to provide more voiceover and a better experience for players. And I remember people in the community were like, voiceovers don't matter, who cares, like whatever. And every now and again when they talk about delays in story content and getting people to the studio and whatever, people again were like, voiceovers don't matter, do it without voiceovers. So it's been interesting to see the opposite now that they've been doing without voiceover, and people are like, oh, this is terrible. It's kind of amazing.
Potatoes kind of like had hinted at it. I think one of his recent videos, he was like, it is so different. And I got the vibe that he was very much in favor of voiceovers. And he was like, it kind of destroys the experience. And I don't know if it put a bad taste in his mouth or whatever. I can't speak for him. But I've always been one who's looked at voiceover in any game pretty much. But Guild Wars 2 is more like as a luxury. And I never had a bad experience with the past couple of updates because I don't know, I'll voice them myself. I'll just read. I'm not a huge like opponent to reading or, having that old school RPG experience. But there are people who have kind of like, I don't know, I guess we've just all come to expect this. So it is, it's fair to say that it's jarring for people who especially weren't around during season 1, who were around during season 2 and Heart of Thorns, who this was all that they've known. So
yeah. Well, I'm one of those people that like originally, like I remember when Final Fantasy X was like, it's fully voiced, and I was like, who cares? Like, who cares? But now whenever I go to play a game and parts are voiced and parts aren't, it just really annoys me. I'm like, just because it really does add a whole different level to everything. And I've just gotten used to that, I mean, I play plenty of games that aren't fully voiced, but there is not a part of me that doesn't feel that game would be even better if it was fully voiced, It's something I always miss.
You call out Final Fantasy X as it's fully voiced, and all I can hear in my head is Titus laughing.
Ah.
Oh, thank you, Torment. Perfect timing. Apparently it's not just me. Good.
Yay.
I think
But yes.
the most jarring thing about it is I don't think this would have bothered me if it was not Icebrood Saga. Because starting with the prologue, the amount of ambient dialogue that is fully voiced as you run around, there was a ton of it. And that was, I think, when me and my wife were playing through the prologue, there were a number of times where she would just stop and she's just like, give me a second, I'm listening to people talking. And just, I feel like the ambient dialogue kind of sells the unsettling nature of Jormag in general.
Oh, yeah.
And
definitely,
and the loss of that
to see like the way different people react to it and deal with it and like what's going on. One of the things I love about the dialogue is sometimes you'll hear people talking and then you're like, wait, who's talking about that? So you turn around to find who's talking, and like it comes in and out depending on your proximity. So like you can play like kind of like a homing beacon to find them if you need to. And it just, I don't know, it overall makes it a much better, more immersive experience, because that's the kind of thing that like happens in real life. You're walking around and you hear somebody talking. I'm like, where's that person? You know? Like,
I relate to that. My ears are always out. I'm like, who's talking? I'm like, I'm a habitual
what's going on? Yes.
It's a problem.
So
not so much during COVID though.
Yeah.
Sadly.
Yeah.
Well, human contact is kind of limited for all of us at the moment. I'm kind of sort of on a quarantine myself. I was at a wedding a week ago, so.
Oh yeah.
Shame stick. Shame.
It was less than 20 people. It was small. It's just my friends. They were supposed to get married in April, so. And then like they rescheduled it for after everything lifted in Pennsylvania, and then everything shut down again. They're just like, let's just get it done.
We're not redoing the whole thing again. Yeah,
but
I can understand that.
All in all, like, just I'm happy to see the voiceovers coming back. Y'all have any final thoughts on this? Other than yay?
I don't know, just to kind of echo what you were saying in terms of like adding a whole other level to the story experience. Like tone of voice is so important, and like the subtleties and the way you say something. As when you're being fed it really creates a very stronger narrative that everybody can kind of get behind. But I do kind of like playing it on my own, because I can make characters. It could be a serious scene, but they could be like executing it comically. Like I view Malice as kind of like some like, I don't know, devilish fiend who's like has a more of an edge of humor rather than like this hardened like stealthy assassin Ashley Jin. So on that perspective, it's really kind of made my personal playing of the story fun and kind of different. Though not everybody will take that initiative of creating different tones and characterizations of characters, but
I will say, I know,
I highly recommend it.
I know, despite people saying that it was kind of annoying, I did find the little and like random sounds that they made to try to indicate tone. Those were funny. Especially like, I don't know if it was different for different races, but the way the human voice on certain parts was like, nah. It was, I don't know, it was special to me.
As a Minecraft player, it only reminded me of one thing. Huh? just villagers everywhere. And then I'm giving flashbacks to one of my bosses who crashed the Minecraft server we played on with like 80,000 villagers in a very small space.
Yes, that was all Sims. I heard the Sims in it immediately. I was like, oh my god.
I didn't really catch them too much, but they were interesting. I don't know. Maybe they should update those too.
But moving on to our next topic, we have the Frost Citadel meta. So the extension of the Drizzlewood Coast meta. We get to push back the storm, I suppose, at the end of Drizzlewood Coast, and we get to assault the Frost Citadel. Senior designer Brian Yarrow and game designer Nick Hernandez talked about the Frost Citadel meta event coming with Jormag Rising in a blog post. They also discussed this with Ruby and senior designer and team lead Kirk Wilford on Guild Chat. So if you didn't have the chance to catch that, go ahead and catch the VOD on twitch.tv/guildwars2. That is their Twitch account, right? Yes. Okay.
Yes. Send them some random place.
Yeah, really. For this release, we wanted the final portion of the meta to draw from all elements of Jizzlewood Coast, like no quarters push and pull, and some newer mechanics on the northern side that are coming with Jormag Rising to create the feeling of one final epic siege. Once players finally break into the Citadel, they might notice a change of pace. In the Citadel itself, we want to play with making it feel more like an instanced encounter. Throughout the entire siege, they've been hinting at a looming threat soaring through the skies, a Claw of Jormag. Within the Citadel, you deal a massive blow to the Frost Legion and damage their ranks. But you'll need to take down the Claw itself to solidify the blow you strike to Jormag's army. We did our best to blend the Citadel parts into this finale with an increasing Claw presence until you finally face off with it. When you do, you'll be met with one tough opponent. The battle begins as players exit the Citadel and find the Claw perched on a spire of ice far out of reach. The only way to attack the Claw is for players to repair several cannons around the perimeter of the roost. To do this, players must gather scrap dropped off by allied supply runner copters and bring it to the cannons, all while dodging the Claw's freezing onslaught. After succeeding in the first half of the battle, the players would get to watch it with satisfaction as the cannons score a direct hit on the perched Claw, throwing it against a nearby cliff and sending it crashing down to a plateau below, injured, but not defeated. With the Claw half buried in the icy rubble, the players can now engage it directly. Here, the Claw will unleash its most powerful attacks with skills that blast out icy breath that can't be dodged, or summon gale force winds. Players must hide behind huge boulders scattered around the area to avoid attacks and stay alive. And here I am, thinking about when I started playing Final Fantasy VII Remake on hard mode and dealing with the boss in the very first Mako reactor with stuff that can't be dodged, and you have to hide behind things.
Voila. I haven't even been able to start the game.
Oh, that's the first chapter.
That's literally the first 15 to 20 minutes of gameplay. I'm not spoiling anything, I swear. It's just hard mode. You literally can't use items.
Oh.
So that's that. But Claw of Jormag, though. We're getting our dragon fight with the Mouth of Mordramoth and the Dragonfall with dealing with Zaitan, or not Zaitan, with Kralkatorrik. I'm getting my dragon names mixed up. So how's that sound to you guys?
Big fan. Just kidding. I'm excited.
Yeah.
I am.
Is it a new model? New big fights.
Not really.
I mean, I feel like it's the same basic model, but it I don't know if high res is the right word, but it seems more textured to me. I don't know.
Yeah, it seems like the fight itself is Claw of Jormag 2.0, which, because you do have a first phase where you can't really hit it until you do X, Y, Z. Then you go hit it, you get it to half, and then it goes to a second phase. But it seems and it's interesting because Claw of Jormag has been in the game since release in 2012, and I imagine there are a ton of players that haven't done that fight. So it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, I'm always curious how many people go back and do those old world bosses still. I know personally, I can't remember the last time I did any of them.
There's
still I have no idea.
World boss train going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do them on occasion, mostly because I have the world boss portal device. So it's so much easier for me to do that and just have a little bit of fun if I don't really know what I'm gonna do that day and I just want to do something. So I'll just go do that. But they're fun if you want to go fight the bosses. Of course, there are new players every couple cycles or seasons where they'll go back and experience those fights. And yeah, there are people still doing it. But when it comes to this fight, we might not have a new model, and that's not necessarily needed. But the mechanics themselves do seem to be fitting. I don't know. They always describe everything as being super challenging and hard. And I never really trust that anymore because Arena kind of oversell their difficulties. And they're like, whoa, it's real difficult. It's super climactic. And I always default to kind of like that triple trouble, newly developed quaddle level of difficulty where you really had a chance of not succeeding.
Right.
And I feel like with every contemporary like open world boss or open world event, your chances of not succeeding are so slim to the point where you can pretty safely say that you're always going to complete it and get rewards.
I think for a lot of the recent ones, most of the challenge comes from people not knowing what to do. And once like people are like, oh, this is what you're supposed to do, then it seems to be pretty easy. I think what's his face? Bone Skinner is the only one that I see regularly that I've been in that we don't succeed on still. Like,
it's honestly because people seem to fail to remember what the break bar is for.
Yeah.
The bosses get harder the more people realize they can't just press 1, essentially.
Yeah.
And I honestly think that if there are unblockable attacks that you have to use terrain to like line of sight effectively, that's going to be a big thing because people are going to just be like, oh, it's a big attack, but it only does 1 tick of damage. I'll just dodge through it.
Yeah.
And I mean, they describe this as like an open world dungeon of sorts. And their dungeon experiences were never touted as being the most difficult.
Well, an overworld instance.
Initial launch.
Instance design. Oh god, initial launch.
Initial launch, the dungeons were a nightmare. I will say that. They were so hard.
It was
and then they nerfed them.
Catacombs. I think it took us 4 hours to finish Catacombs story. Just because the group of my friends were we're barely leveled.
I think Catacombs was the worst one out of all of them. I think, if I remember correct, Catacombs was the most badly balanced, especially since it was like one of your first dungeons you go into, and it was just like, oh god, you know. So, I mean, initially, but yeah, once they went back and fixed all of that, it was not a problem.
Yeah, and it was, well, we didn't know how to throw rocks. We were completely unfamiliar. Coming from World of Warcraft, we were 100% unfamiliar with the use of environmental tools.
Right.
Because you
like what?
Rocks?
Well, okay, so
why are you throwing a char?
Look,
that was a bad joke.
Yeah, I love it though.
If she spins and has her claws out as she goes through, it's like a giant blender.
And her horns, yeah, no, that'll do some damage.
But the idea of like throwing rocks to CC the ranger boss when he was up on the pillar, using the rocks to break the lovers apart for the ghosts there.
That did take me a little bit because, like, yeah, literally, there was nothing like that in the game I had played before. I was like, "What is this?"
And I do think Torment Nightmare Tower was actually a pretty solid, like, original release Nightmare Tower was definitely a solid level of difficulty.
Yes.
Now, I think the only problem is, like, people want difficulty to remain. And the problem is, it doesn't matter how difficult something is. With Guild Wars 2, it's going to be repeated, and then through repetition comes mastery.
Well, I mean, really, any game comes into that. Like, you know, something is only hard until you figure it out. And then, like, there are games where, like, you know, Dark Souls, Bloodborne, where you might figure it out, but there's still, it's hard to do it. But these games are not that. Like, the things you need to do generally are not hard in and of themselves. It's learning the timing and when you need to do things that's hard. And once you have that, you're good.
And then FromSoft likes to change with the attack timings as the health bar goes down, and then you're screwed anyway. But I honestly, like, the description of this fight sounds really cool. I'm looking forward to this fight and kind of taking things down from, like, a dub-v-dub style attack into a more intimate, like, siege situation, into a singular boss fight is definitely an interesting way for things to transition for the map. And I really dig it, and I'm looking forward to the fight.
Yeah. By the end, it kind of dissolves that world versus world experience. But Yeah, I do think it'll be cinematic. At least I hope it's cinematic. We're fighting Claw Jormag on top of the, the Citadel, so
Right.
I hope that they really I hope the environmental artists kind of go big with this one too.
The screenshots look very promising on that front.
Yeah, I don't know. The Citadel itself, from what we've seen in the trailer, I don't think they were really. It's not really selling me a Citadel. It's just kind of selling me like big icicles. And
right.
That's kind of it.
I mean, we don't really get much look there because it's the second picture in the blog post. And it looks like it's like Black Citadel assets with the flooring, like Black Citadel and like mine assets. But it's a very like narrow shot with like the field of view pulled out so you can see like the enemies arrayed. But I'm hoping that there's a lot more than just kind of a big room that you walk into.
Mm-hmm.
I hope so too. That'd be very disheartening.
Especially like,
give me a Citadel. Give me a Citadel.
I had like that machine in there from that video from they posted last week.
Yeah,
and like
the
corridors and stuff. Yeah, so I think there'd be like disabling. We have to disable a machine that's, I believe, giving the char like Jormag powers.
Or maybe amplifying Jormag's powers somehow.
Well, yeah, I don't know, like, because we saw Char going through like this kind of like cryo spraying thing, and then they come out frosted. So I believe we have to destroy that as part of that assault. So I think there'll be some depth to it. I'm not sure like if we'll have to spread out or anything. Like was it Corna? Domina Corna, where we attack the Citadel?
Yes. I think so.
Yeah. The
either Corna or Johai. I don't remember, but
it was Corna. Episode 3?
Yeah. It was
Corna.
That's the one where you have to
that
deal
was
with
disappointing.
the plague when you lose, right?
Yeah, so it's, I think it'll be more something like that, but not just going left and right to the side, more in depth. Because
remember when they said, "Oh yeah, we'll look at it to see if we can revamp it." No, that was like 2 years ago.
Yeah, but hopefully this one will go more inside. But that's about it.
Yeah,
I'm hoping for something that's kind of on par with maybe not on par, but something similar to the escort event in what is Wing 2?
You mean Wing 3?
Was it Wing 3 that had Matthias at the end of it? No.
Oh no, that's Wing 2.
Yeah, no, I'm talking.
I thought you were talking about Escort.
Escort on Wing 3. It's the first. That's the one with can't remember the.
That's
the
I'm not your puppy. Yeah, that one.
Yeah, the escort event at the start of Wing 3. I honestly thought that's the best escort mission I've ever seen in a game.
Yeah.
Just because you have control over where the NPC goes.
Yeah.
And like you had to send a group up to the towers to neutralize the threats up there. You had to keep a group down there on the ground to keep the NPC safe and to progress. So like it might have been QED, but I'll admit I completely missed that because our IT department was down a person, so I had to be kind of like eyes glued to my inbox. So I missed the entire guild chat.
I don't think they walked through like how in depth the Citadel thing is, though.
Did they do
like? I think they showed parts of it. I don't know.
People have to split up.
Yeah.
If that's the case, if people have to split up, then I'm all for it.
I love splitting.
Actually makes sense.
I love banana splits.
Well,
I love doing split.
Well, they've already kind of prepared people
for you to split.
Well, they've kind of prepared people to do it with the fight against Drakkar with the gates and locking people out.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, also this whole map up to this point has been 2 lanes that you fight through, and then it would make sense that they continue that in some vein.
Even like Dragon Stand and like what was the last season's
Dragonfall.
Dragonfall. There you go. That one had some splits too. So I think
Maybe eventually we'll get a Dragon Dance update.
A Dragon Dance. I love how every like end of a season map has something to do with dragon.
Mhm.
I'm just waiting for like Dragon sleeps or like Dragon goes on a leisurely walk. Just something really ridiculous. That's what I would love. But in terms of the meta, I'm pretty sure that they said this. They are extending the original meta to kind of bleed into the second map. Okay, great. I didn't make that up. And they're shortening it. But it's still, I mean, it's not 2 separate metas like your marches, where they're kind of independent. You have to force your way through the first map into the second map. Did they clarify how that's going to work with players who have not unlocked this episode?
Oh.
I would imagine that you might have access, if you have access to one of the episodes, you can get to the map, but you miss out on the things that map unlocks. So like, or that chapter unlocks. So if you missed out on on No Quarter, you don't have access to
the story,
the Waystation masteries, or the story instances. So
ooh, that's difficult actually, because the masteries are an extension, aren't they?
They are.
But you don't you if you have the other one but not this one, then you would get the first levels but not the extended ones.
That's weird.
So you would just miss out on the mastery that chains between targets and lets you use it regardless of the type.
Oh, is it like a new brand? Is it a new mastery and not like adding on ticks?
With the Metazuka?
Oh yeah, no, okay, maybe not then. I haven't leveled that mastery, so I don't know.
Like, I'd imagine the Metazuka is just going to be another tier of the Waystation.
The United Legion Waystation. Yeah.
Well, that's what we're talking about.
It is interesting now that you say that.
Yeah, QED, that's what we're talking about, though, is just like Biora is 2 separate maps, effectively. Sorry to interrupt you, KROOF.
Oh, no, I'm okay. To that end, I'm interested to see if somebody has episode 3 but not has episode 2 but doesn't have episode 1. Can they still go back to the first part of your marches?
That's what QED was bringing up.
Okay, because if that's the case, then anybody who unlocks Tormag Rising but doesn't have the current episode, they'll still be able to participate in the meta. And I think that's how it should be, considering that this meta in particular is a direct extension into the extended map. And if they didn't do that, that'd be just kind of weird. It'd be all the Dormag Rising players waiting in the second half for the thing to progress. So
just literally everybody standing at a deactivated waypoint, dead, waiting for the meta event to progress to where they are.
So I don't think the map will be an issue. I don't think it should.
I suppose this is difficult for us to discuss on like a news side of things because we're all always up
speculating
to date on unlock. Well, no, this is like
we always have everything unlocked, right?
I can't tell any of my friends that like if you buy the Living Story chapters bundled, you get a discount, and it like discounts for the ones you already have too, because I can't see those. They're not in the Gemstore for me. I can't, and I'd have to go and basically buy another account to figure that out. So it's kind of difficult to do that.
But in terms of the meta, well, yeah, you can continue. What were you saying? Sorry.
It's weird. Like the progression, and I know we talked a bit ago about, you know, the purchasing of the chapters is kind of getting to be a little onerous. It's kind of like having to purchase expansions at this point.
Yeah.
But they need to have a season pass.
Yeah, that's kind of like a whole nother whole nother thing. So I'm not gonna let that bleed into the discussion of Jormag Rising. So
Let it bleed. Just kidding. But I do think the meta will be a definitive aspect of how well this episode lives on, because they say that they've shortened the requirements for you to push it, but by how much, and how much did you shorten the first part, and how long is the second part of the map until you get to Jormag? That, I think, will definitely show how well this map performs for,
right.
I don't know, years to
And
come.
then, like, how long the entire thing takes to do could be an issue too, because like you don't want it to go too fast to do both of them, but you also don't, like, most people don't want to like be in a meta event that goes for like 2 hours or something, you know? Like,
Yeah. I mean, I love Dragon Stand, so I'm not complaining, but yeah, I agree.
that there's certainly a lot of people who like to go in, do quick things, and then hop back out, you know? Like,
well, to partially address both of those things and what Mr. Red said is like, I honestly am perfectly fine with them extending the map for up to half an hour, because unless they change things, you're still getting more ticks of the loot boxes from the bases you've already captured. So
That is true.
If they extend that, you get more ticks of that, and you get more of those boxes too. And Mr. Red, I'm fairly certain that even after you kill the Claw, there's going to be stuff you can do in the Citadel.
yeah.
Because that's basically been every, like, Dragon Stand, Dragonfall, all of the meta maps in Heart of Thorns, there was stuff you could do after the end of the meta as kind of like a reset period. I mean, I still remember in the Attack on Lion's Arch when we would all get kicked back to the Vigil Keep, and there were like vendors and shit there that you could talk to in order to get like your inventory cleared out.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, cool. I
Probably
appreciate
fight
that,
more
QED.
commanders.
Sorry, what was that?
We'll probably fight just like more commanders after the meta event completes, because there's like the commanders in the first half of the map that spawn, and there'll probably be more like rooms that you can go into in the second half of the map.
Mm-hmm.
And you fight a bounty boss and then get extra chests.
Yeah. And yeah, I figured it wasn't going to be just the Claw fight, QED, because you have to get through the Citadel, and then you have to fight the Claw. So you have to take the keep, then you have to set up the siege weaponry to knock the Claw down, and then you have to kill it. So
First, you have to get to the bridge.
Yeah, like
You got to get to that bridge first.
It's a siege. You have to get in there first.
So we're gonna, in the entire map meta, we're gonna have two kind of cinematic fights, because I'm presuming that the char tank and helicopter are still going to be a part of the fight. Unless
I don't expect anything to change with what Drizzlewood is right now.
Yeah, it
Just
wouldn't
the
make
speed.
sense
So we're
for
gonna
that to go away.
In Jormag. Okay, that could be really interesting. In
Yeah,
terms of just like
it's one
cinematic fight.
giant. See, I'm honestly seeing this more and more as I look at it. Is they're talking about their instance design, and I remember how they talked about basically using D&D as a way to design raid fights, and I'm looking at Drizzlewood Coast now as like a kind of campaign setting for like having to push through a war zone, and I'm like, they did the same thing with this map that they had to. So, yeah, that's pretty solid. I like this. I'll see how I like the concept of it. I gotta see the execution first, but
Right. But the idea seems good. And I'm glad that they're kind of doing what we were hoping, where they extend the meta, but it's not just like exactly the same kind of thing over again.
yeah, because it wouldn't feel. I mean, that'd be like the same thing that they do with like Dragon Stand. It would kind of feel kind of cheaty if we basically killed all of Mordremoth's champions at the Blighting Towers, and then we just went to a bigger Blighting Tower.
Right.
That actually be kind of cinematic. I wouldn't have minded that, actually.
I don't know. I feel like what they did with the Mouth of Mordremoth was like even bigger, because like you get in there and the camera pulls back.
Fire.
For, like,
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just thinking of like a giant giant like corpse grove, like the corpse grove of all the corpse groves. That would be really cool. Oh,
Yeah.
We're getting back to Heart of Thorns now.
we
They should have
never
done so
stay
much more with the corpse
focused.
groves.
It's very Skritty here. We tend to jump from topic to topic, but change dimension is
Shiny.
Okay, so they're just speeding up Drizzlewood a bit, and participation gain is increased. Okay.
Yeah.
So basically, at that point, if they're speeding up Drizzlewood, it doesn't really matter how long the Frost Citadel meta is, like the extension of the Warfront meta.
I mean, it kind of matters, like, depending.
It
depends on how much
right?
they're speeding up the other one, too. Like,
Yeah.
There might be fewer attacks on the camps that you've already taken. So you have fewer defenses, and the defenses might be faster to complete. Because I do know that like the defense events for the individual areas in Drizzlewood can sometimes feel like they take forever.
They do take kind of long. Just a touch. Just a touch.
a little bit.
But and I do hope that they'll keep the meta rewards rolling in for the Drizzlewood Coast, like the event boxes that roll through every 10 minutes or so. Because that's like one of the biggest incentives to stay active on the map is to keep your participation high, so you get the crazy good loot boxes from all of your taken settlements.
Yeah.
New silver waste, pretty much. From what I've been hearing, it's like new silver waste in addition to I mean, like as it is right now, Drizzlewood Coast. And what was it? The strike missions. Pretty much free.
I still need to do the new strike.
Are we not getting a new strike this episode?
No, we are not. We are not getting a new strike this episode.
Huh.
Which
Okay.
doesn't bother me as much. I talked about it one of the last times last Wednesday when I was streaming. I think it was with Mr. Red in chat. Like it's disappointing to not see a strike mission, but like at the same time, we got 3 strike missions with episode 1 and 2.
Yeah, they could kind of take a break, I guess.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where it's like I don't want them to paint themselves into a corner of, well, you need a new strike for every single chapter.
Yeah.
Because then you're forced into generating content that might not. I mean, they could have Mr. Red, but if they didn't have an idea for it, it's not great to force it. Like I was even equating it to like a problem I've been working on for my own job. Like I just design a website, and it's not even like a fancy looking website. It's data collection and utilization for my company, and I've been fighting with a single menu for a week and a half. It's not
Maybe
even
just do it. Just see what the problem is and just talk to it.
I wish I could do that, but like just talk to my computer and it just sorts itself out. That'd be great. But
That's what I do.
But it's, if you are like forcing creativity, you're gonna end up with uninspired strike missions with stuff that isn't necessarily fun to repeat. It's just, here is a boss in a room with rehashed mechanics. Could they add a strike mission tagged to Drizzlewood Coast later on? Sure. Admittedly, Mr. Red, I haven't done Cold War yet, so I don't know.
It's cool, but it's also like I like the concept of it, but it's also not like it's short and like I don't know. It's not that interesting to me.
I'm not terribly surprised if it's short because people complained about the escort one from.
Yeah, this is the exact
previous
opposite
one?
of that. Yeah.
Because people were like, you can't make it faster by DPSing harder. And it's just like, but it's, never mind. That's a whole nother concept. But like, not getting a strike mission, I'm okay with. They're coming out with a fractal. They've basically said that they've unlinked fractals from the release schedule of the Living Story chapters. So that's good, which means
I don't think that's a good idea.
I mean, if they come up with a fractal idea and the fractal design team is ready to roll it out, just let them roll it out. Like, I don't see a problem with it just kind of coming out.
No, I'm always one about planning and timing. And I've always been, Guild Wars 2 and ArenaNet do have good planning and timing sometimes, but I feel like they kind of show their cards too early at times. And they kind of just release things without a larger buildup. And I think by tying things to larger episodes that general people can acknowledge is like another episode, so it's an actual piece of content. While if you just release a fractal by itself, people who aren't in the community or don't really know that, they're like, I don't know what that is. I'm not playing that.
That's why they have the mail system. So like anytime something new happens, like for when new raid wings popped up, you got a mail in game.
In terms of in game, but I'm talking about like outside of the game. Outside of the game, in terms of marketing and like grabbing people's attention is equally as important. And they never really linked raids to any releases either. Now, raids were some of the best content, but I don't feel like they got as much of a crowd because they were just releasing them left and right. Granted, they were releasing them when we had a drought, which was probably the only thing that saved Guild Wars 2 for that period.
I was going to say raids were also geared at a small percentage of the community. Like, yeah, sure, anybody could go in, but I feel like the majority of the community, like the people who don't go online and watch things and do other things, probably don't care as much about raiding.
But it's still, I don't know. I don't mind them releasing things when they're ready. Like balance patches. I think that is one of the things where you don't need really much hype. You shouldn't have much hype or like much gravitas. Like explain it a week before and then release them when they're ready. World versus World updates. I feel like that area of gameplay is like you release those when World versus World is ready. So in 5 years. When it comes to raids and fractals, they're so. I mean, fractals basically take on the persona of dungeons, and raids and fractals are so core to any MMO experience, and it's become customary to the MMO community to see these things being advertised with patches, like with World of Warcraft, like patch 5.1. It displays the raid, it displays the dungeon or the fractal.
But like, so I talked about that some last week. The reason why I'm glad that you don't do that is because, like with WoW, I know what I'm getting every patch. Like, it's not exciting. It's just like, yeah, we're getting a new raid. Cool, that'll be interesting. Like now when they do it, it's like, oh, hey, there's a new raid or there's a new fractal. It's awesome and exciting. Like, because there's less planning about it. I feel like knowing exactly when you're going to get something, next update, we're going to have a whatever in a certain cycle in some ways makes it less exciting. Like, it's good to have something to look forward to, but like for me, it's less exciting. And like in WoW, the raiding is what I do. That's all I do in WoW. Well, not all I do, because I have to do the other stuff to be ready for raiding, but whatever. I'd
100% agree with that. But when it comes to Guild Wars 2, it is not World of Warcraft consistency. So in terms of whenever they announce a raid or whenever they announce a fractal, to the Guild Wars 2 community and hopefully outside of it, it would be equally as enticing as if they just dropped it whenever. Because we haven't grown into a community that expects these things every patch. Right. We have with strike missions, which is why they aren't as like impactful anymore. But when it comes to fractals and raids, we don't get them. So if they would announce them at all, it's still exciting. Which is why I got excited about this regardless.
It's one of those things that's kind of a catch-22, and going off of like Mr. Red's point, there's nothing more demotivating than not knowing when your new content is coming or if it even is coming. Like KROOF, you brought up alliances, which we know is coming soon in a Blizzard soon. But the problem with that is it's the catch-22 of they can either tell us that it's coming and not give us a date, or if they give us a date and then something comes up and they have to push it back, they get yelled at for pushing it back. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that the people who are yelling are the same groups of people. There's overlap, of course, but it's not usually the same people. But it's one of those things where it's like you get the negative community backlash either way you do things. So I kind of understand why a lot of gaming companies have just kind of gone radio silent with a lot of this. Because it's just damned if you do, damned if you don't. So we may as well just go quiet and deal with the constant murmur of, well, they don't tell us anything. And then, oh, they gave us the thing, and then they don't tell us anything.
One of the things that I've always found interesting going between a lot of MMOs and the communities is that invariably each community is like, you don't talk to us enough, give us enough interaction, blah, blah. And then they'll use some other MMOs community managers and be like, be more like them. They commute really well. But then if you spend any time in that community, it's the exact same thing because they all communicate in different ways, have different priorities and stuff. And it's an interesting thing that's always going on everywhere.
But that's the thing, Mr. Red, is they are still giving us stuff. Like, we're getting a brand new, like, Drizzlewood Coast is the meta event map. Like, Icebrood Saga is the meta event series of maps that I've been complaining about since the release of Path of Fire that have been lacking.
I don't understand the fear that a lot of the community has that just because we haven't seen something in a while, we'll never see anything like it again. Just because, like, yeah, they've shuttered some things, but they've been very clear when they've done it. And they're like, we're moving away from that. We're going to do other things. Like, otherwise, they've kept things going outside of those times when they've specifically said, we're not going to work on that anymore. We're moving away from that. We're going to do this instead. So,
well, okay.
I don't know.
So for the other problem, Mr. Red, is what you're dealing with is MMO burnout. Which is what happens when you are sitting on the bleeding edge of content when you do the new thing and you're like super excited about doing the new thing and everything else that you want to do in the game is done. So you finish the new thing and now you have nothing left to do that you want to do.
Which will always be a problem, no matter how fast content comes out, because it takes way less time to consume content than it does to create it.
Exactly.
Like, that's always an issue.
Yeah. And as a gamer, you have to take the personal responsibility to create your own fun at times. It was your own personal responsibility getting into a game for whatever reason you wanted to. So then, if you do get burnout, take a break. But if you want to continue to play the game, there might come a time when you have to kind of create your own fun by doing other things that you might not consistently do. But you have to kind of wrangle the beast within you. Hungry for content, and there's none to go around. But, these people are also humans too, and you can only work so fast.
I mean, I look at, honestly, I always talk about World of Warcraft, but that was my previous largest experience with an MMO. When I got to Endgame in Wrath of the Lich King, I went back and started grinding Burning Crusade rep. And I finished all of the Burning Crusade rep grinds in the span of T9 and T10, which was...
wow, that's actually impressive.
Yeah. Well, there was a large... That was back in, like, 2000...
Like, including the Ogre Law ones and the Nightwing and all of that they added later?
Ogre Law, but I did do the Netherwing. That was the first one I did, because those dragons were really goddamn cool. But,
yeah.
But... like, we will always get through, like Arlie said earlier, we're always going to burn through content faster than what they can put out. And that's even if you experience all of the content. Mm-hmm. Like, if you play everything, I'm talking PvP, WW, PvE, if you do fractals and raiding, and even if you're on that dungeon grind, because I know QED in chat, he runs a group every so, like, he posts about doing dungeon groups, because it's lucrative. You make a crap ton of money every 8 dungeons, every 8 dungeon paths you do. Like, you can make a lot of gold running dungeons. So it's one of those... Oh god.
I think it's not with this game. I feel like MMO burnout is a thing, but there's also the problem of the repeatable content has to be enjoyable as well. And I would say that's kind of like half true, because like if you like grinding, you have maps. You have like Hearthorn's maps. You have Drizzlewood Coast. You have Silver Waste. You have those types of maps where you can just like constantly farm on end and just like game mats and gold and things like that. If you are a kind of person who likes the high end content, I think that's kind of an issue. Like if you like going into that content repeatedly, that's okay, but like you can burn out on that obviously because the content is a lot longer to come out versus actually playing it and playing it on repeat to the point of like you get burnt out. Because I think like the limit for that would be maybe 3-4 months on average, I guess, for a person. That's just like spitballing something.
Mm-hmm.
But and then you have World versus Worlds where like yeah. And then you have PvP.
That's
Well,
endlessly green.
I think yeah, PvP is that type of mode where you can just play constantly on end.
Well,
Yeah. Rip your hair out a little bit.
It depends on where the meta is because, like, depending on what the meta is, it could make it get old for some people faster than others.
That would be the only caveat for that. So it really depends on what you do and how much of what it depends on what you do and how much you do as well. So if you like play every single part of the game, I feel like you're okay. So if you grind, play World vs. World, play PvP, you do fractals, dungeons, raids, whatever, I think you can rotate that content enough that you'd be entertained. Mm-hmm. But if you are like solely focused on high-end content, you haven't had any new high-end content for like a year now. So that's the kind of thing. I would say Strikes put it in there, but it's like for people who do high-end content.
Not really the same.
Yeah.
Well, don't the like the static strikes, not the hot join ones, have a higher difficulty anyway? Like if you join a dedicated 10-man raid group, it's
they do, but it's not. Yeah, okay. It's not
noticeable. It's not like there's a new mechanic or a new phase. It's probably just like a little bit more health, a little bit more damage.
Yeah, they're still geared to be like training wheels for raiding, so it's not like that much difficult, really. Okay.
I went in with a raid group and it was like hard.
It was so back to Mr. Red Point. Raids once a week, fractals once a day, strikes once a day. You can still do the content. You're gating things for your you're defining your repetition as how many times can I get rewards for it.
Right.
So of course there is going to be, because in an MMO, in any game as a service, the thing you are paying for or paying with is time. Mm-hmm. Your investment into the game is part of what you were like they're counting against. There's going to be a gate for everything. Like Warcraft had gating. It was weekly gating for raids, daily gating for dungeon rewards.
Yep.
I think even some PvP rewards had a certain cap per day.
Or per week, sometimes. Yeah. It depends on what expansion we're talking about and what evolution of the system. Yeah, it's funny because for me personally, the way I approach Guild Wars 2 is like, what do I feel like working on today? Like, I can't remember the last time I did a daily or a weekly or whatever, other than if I accidentally did it just because I happened to want to do that thing that day. Like, for me, like, feeling like I have to do certain content every day or every week is what makes it old and tiring for me. So I personally just opt out of it because I know that's going to ruin the game for me.
Right. Like during quarantine, I did my dailies every day for like a solid 2.5-3 weeks, and I loved the income for it. But then I just kind of got burned out doing it, and I haven't done it since. And I'm probably going to spin back up on it. But and for two things, for Mr. Red's point and for QED's point. QED first, Guild Wars 1 was a different game. Like the design of it was completely different. And I think the time investment for some of the end game runs for some of the missions was a lot greater than some of the stuff you can put into Guild Wars 2 now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know people had it down to a science with certain builds, but you had to get certain gear and have the certain kind of people in the groups. But And then Mr. Red, like, that's the point though, is the initiative, like, generally speaking, when game designers look at a game and want to say, when we're talking about repetition, they want to talk about the gameplay. Is the gameplay enjoyable? Mm-hmm. Not necessarily sorry, I'm losing my train of thought here. Is it rewarding? Because, like, generally speaking, by design, is the gameplay itself rewarding, not just here is the stuff you get for doing the thing.
Right.
I'm also realizing we are way off the topic of the assault on the Citadel, and we've got a bunch of other topics to get to.
We have crossed the Pacific Ocean. We are in Japan currently.
I just looked down at the timestamp for how long the recording is, and I'm like, oh shit. So maybe we should. Y'all okay with tabling this for like after show while I'm cutting things together?
No more tables. Everything's on the table. There's no more room.
It's a big table.
We need a Tupperware bin. We need a bin.
It's a cosmic table. But so, Jormag Rising, Assault on the Frost Citadel. Yay, nay?
Yay! Maybe.
Yay?
Let's see how it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. Okay. So,
I'm excited. I'll be excited for everybody.
Get pumped. I want you to get excited about your life.
It's Dr. Phil.
So, to get to a couple of interesting topics that we got from the forums. First and foremost, this one is going to be much shorter to talk about because it's going to be basically a yes or no. Should Guild Wars 2 go on Steam?
Why?
Just for visibility and to get more people onto it?
NC Soft, I think.
Oh, really?
I think that was the issue because NC Soft is the publisher, and I don't think they want Guild Wars 2 being published on Steam.
No, so like they're still part of NC Soft, but a few years back, ArenaNet became their own self-publisher, so they technically self-publish it. So I don't know how all of that works exactly legally because they are still underneath NCSoft, but like they are self-publishing. There's a weird relationship there. It's not 100% reverse QED. They're still technically self-publishing, but they're still owned by NCSoft. There's a weird, like, I want to see the contract. I'll never get to see the contract, but I really would love to see that contract.
Regardless of legality, in terms of a hypothetical world, I mean, any game that can go on Steam should. It's like Steam is such a fundamental to any gaming, like to any gamer. It's a household name pretty much in the gaming community, and just having it accessible on Steam for people who frequent around Steam and run around those circles and are really invested in Steam and like seeing other ratings and reviews, it might be another nice outlet. So in a hypothetical world, why not? Yeah.
The only thing I could see of is if they were to handle integration between like the friends list and maybe being able to like process your purchases through whatever you have saved via Steam. Like your Steam payment method translates into what you buy gems through if you're buying gems through Steam Guild Wars 2 versus standard.
Right.
But
I'm kind of torn about it just because one of the things I did for a while was I used to do a talk for game developers in college and indie game developers about like how to handle the press and how to get discoverability of your game, because it's something a lot of surprisingly indie developers don't think about. One of the biggest issues with Steam is actually discoverability, because a lot of people think about you get shown all of these games, but the games that you get shown are such a small percentage of the game. Like back in, I think it was 2016, on average, every day there were like 10,000 new games on Steam. That's a ridiculous amount of games. So it could be a real issue. And like, I guess, I don't know how it works, what games get like shown more on Steam. Like I guess you could pay Valve to show your game more or something. But like I don't necessarily think that having it on Steam would increase the player base at all. But, interesting enough, SWTOR just went on Steam. So like, I'm going to be watching that to see if like that increases their player base at all, because it would be kind of analogous. They're both MMOs that have been out for a long time at this point, multiple expansions and whatnot, to see like how it affects things for them.
Maybe if they can shed the trappings of being called the worst monetization in MMOs.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And
no, seriously, KROOF. I wrote an article once about it where I literally at the end was like, so basically sub for a month, so you unlock the shit and then unsub. And they liked it, retweeted it, and I was like, you guys? Like, okay. I felt bad.
Hat does bring up a good point with Steam taking a cut of all sales, including microtransactions.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of pros and cons to it, so I guess I have to weigh that and then determine. But I guess no for now.
But should Guild Wars 2 come to console? Just kidding.
Honestly, considering that the reason I have Guild Wars 2 in my Steam list is because I was messing around with playing with my Steam controller.
Oh my!
So, like with the combat camera,
interesting.
It can work with controllers, and like Final Fantasy 14 is on consoles, so
They refined their action camera and had a lock on or a soft lock on feature. Oh, be good for console.
You would have to have if it was on console, you'd have to give people a better direction towards the camera controls, because you can control like how above the shoulder and which shoulder you're at.
Right.
So like you'd have to kind of do like a tutorial for that when people started playing on a console. Probably have to change the UI a little bit. But I think Guild Wars 2 with, I won't say minor tweaking, but like it wouldn't be nigh impossible to work on a console. But so that was Guild Wars 2 to Steam, which generated a lot more conversation and more in depth than I thought it would. So I'm totally cool with that.
Ooh, you assumed.
And I should know about assuming. So. Now, for the thing that I know is probably going to generate a lot more conversation, and that's why I kind of like shocked myself when I looked at the timestamp with the Jormag Rising discussion. Someone looking for Guild Wars 2 to bring in a hard trinity. I'm a hard no. No, God, no. Why, God, no.
I am a hard yes. I am a resoundingly hard yes. Yes, yes, yes.
This is new, because I'm pretty sure both Age and Arlie are, and this is just from previous information, I think y'all are both in the anti-Trinity camp. If I recall
I'm
correctly.
not hard on it at all either way,
World
but
of Warcraft, yeah.
I'm like, if we do that, then we're just like every other MMO. Like, I don't know. I feel like having not the hard trinity is one of those things that keeps Guild Wars in its own little area and like different and interesting. And like, I like the versatility in the classes that you have because of that.
I focus more on what Lynn said. Is that we kind of already have it in a way. But Age, what were you saying?
I was gonna say I'm not against the Trinity, but it just doesn't work in this game if you add it now.
I think I think a couple of the top responses that I saw in the thread was basically you can't bring back something that never existed. So
bringing back, I think the wording should have been implementing it rather than it's not about bringing it back, because it was never advertised, nor was it ever, built in mind.
That's the thing. Like, I think a lot of the classes and elite specs and stuff would have to be fundamentally redesigned in some ways so that all of them fit somewhere into a hard trinity. And I think that's where the issues would come from, because if you only make certain professions have a healer or a tank or whatever, then that kind of then makes them necessary if you're going to, for any content that would then require a trinity. You know, like, I feel like it would be detrimental to Guild Wars 2 unless they made every class, spec, and profession have all of those things in some way. But then, I don't know. I feel like you'll have a lot more DPS and not many tanks and healers.
You also get rid of soloable stuff. Anything soloable is just done, because if you're gonna have a hard trinity, that means DPS and tanks cannot have a clear heal skill.
Well, they could do like what World of Warcraft does where basically once you get gear out in the world, nothing, no matter what spec you are, is a threat whatsoever. And I mean, that's kind of the way it is now. Unless, I don't know, certain parts of Heart of Thorns or whatever. Maybe.
Part of what this person also said was remove the dedicated heal skill.
Yeah.
From every profession?
Except healers.
Okay, so I just read the title. It just says bring back the Holy Trinity. I do think the differentiation of hard versus soft Trinity, I think I'm more in like a softer Trinity while also refining the soft Trinity. I think that what we're talking about in terms of forcing a profession into being a healer or having these things, that's not going to happen because we have specializations.
Right.
So regardless, that's not going to happen. But do I think it would be smart to refine the soft Trinity and make it better? I would be more so in that camp.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, with the current encounter design that we've got going, is you've got aggro for reasons, like Slothosaur, who randomly changes target. You've got stuff that aggroes for like debuffs. So that's again Slothosaur. But instead of randomly changing, it's, I believe it would be something like you designate a player and they pick up a thing or a buff of some sort, and then they become the target. You have toughness tanking, which literally just means it aggroes on the person with the highest toughness.
Which can get fun and interesting on occasion if you're not paying attention.
Yeah, especially, well, I think that's like one of the problems with like Minion Master Necros going into raiding when it first came out, because you had the toughness buff per minion that came up.
Yeah.
So like that's and even highest toughness, you can equip a single piece of gear so long as you are higher than the rest of your raid group. And then you are the tank. You can be a full DPS spec aside from like complete DPS rundown except for one single piece of gear, and you just entirely go off of the strength of your own cooldowns and ability to dodge after that. So,
and I'm presuming that this conversation is almost entirely around endgame PvE content.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, this would be for like instanced content, because the idea of being a tank in any game that had a hard trinity, honestly, you basically did not run around in tank or healer spec in the open world unless it was like I did it in World of Warcraft, but that's because I played on a PvP server. And it was really funny to watch people try and kill a prop paladin. That's
one of the things that I was saying, like at this point in World of Warcraft, they've rebalanced it some, and like I only am ever in tank spec. My druid, I'm never anything else unless I happen to be in a group where somebody else wants to take, and then I'm like, oh wow, I get to DPS, cool. That'll be different. But like out in the world, I'm godlike. I could literally fight any like world boss or whatever. It will not be able to kill me. It might take me 30 minutes to kill it on my own, but I can kill it. It's not a problem. But like you also lose a lot when you do set it up like that way. And I wouldn't really want them to do that. Like I know like I was saying, the PvE open world content already isn't all that challenging in the first place. But there are still like, I don't know of really anybody who goes and like solos the world bosses in Guild Wars 2. Like that's just not a thing. And I feel like if they tried to balance things out so that to accommodate a trinity, we'd end up there, and that would be sad. It's kind of my feeling on it.
Well, open world is a bit different because there are so many people. But when it
Yeah.
comes to like fractals and raiding, where I stand on in terms of improving the soft trinity, I entirely agree with Zlint in chat. Do we share a brain, Zlint? What's going on? But I think the two areas that are extremely solid was originally damage. Damage was basically the only thing everyone focused on in vanilla. And then come Heart of Thorns, ArenaNet was like, you know what? Maybe we should improve healing. And they gave more professions access to playing a support, a healer. Was never required, but you could do it to make encounters easier or to, you know, just make sure you don't die.
Right.
The one area that is the most inconsistent and disheartening for players is probably the tank role. Because if you want to tank in Guild Wars 2 and you want to fulfill that tanking fantasy, it changes on almost every single boss encounter. You go from toughness to randomized to you have to be holding something. And certain bosses do it better. I think the Desmina fight where you hold the item, which like kind of declares you as the tank, that I think is successful. But we also have a condition in the game, Taunt. And I wouldn't mind seeing Taunt be augmented and differentiated from PvP to PvE. While in PvE, it'd be more focused on maintaining aggro and having a more consistent throughput in terms of designing strike missions, raids, and fractals. While in PvP, maintaining its current function, you know, more niche skills apply Taunt. Taunt lasts for a shorter duration. It forces the enemy to start auto-attacking you. Do I think they will go that far? Probably not, but I think that would probably make tanking a bit more consistent and a bit more fulfilling for people who want to play that tank role.
Go ahead, Mathis.
Okay. I think Taunt was kind of applied in reaction to, say, like fear, as like an opposite but equal kind of thing. Because fear makes you run away from the target and Taunt makes you run towards. So I feel like Taunt fills a role in that aspect, but as for like being able to control a boss, I feel like they've done a much better job figuring that out through other means than Taunt as a status effect in comparison to other games.
So randomizing the target is a consistent and effective way?
For the fights where it is random, it is meant to be random. Like Slothosaur is a wild animal that is mutated by magic. It's not thinking, it is acting on instinct and lashing out.
He's a very smart Slothosaur. Don't disparage him.
Look, he just woke up from his nap, and like I don't know a single person who is just like immediately 100% cognizant of their surroundings as soon as they wake up. So he's just a little sleep-addled when he starts switching targets. So I just think that, like, by design, if aggro is random, like, that's the point. Like, that's part of the design of the fight. So
I think that's one of the bonuses of having the soft Trinity, which I'm all for them refining that and helping it. What I'm against is a hard Trinity, like forcing everybody into it. Yeah. That would be terrible. But like, I feel like having the soft Trinity gives them more options available of what they can do with raid fights and dungeon fights even, because like they don't have to like beholden to making the tanks feel like they're doing something useful, the healers feel like they're doing something useful while the DPS is stabbing away. Like it restricts content in such a way that people expect certain things to happen, and then when you get those fights that don't fit that structure, it can be fun, but also it can be like very upsetting for the players. Like for an example is the first boss fight in TOC in Wrath of the Lich King. It's universally hated because it worked basically like a PvP fight. It didn't follow the standard rules of a raid fight. And a lot of the player base felt like it wasn't fun. I loved it. That was my favorite dungeon or raid of the whole thing.
Third or fourth fight?
No, I think it was the first one. It was the PvP fight.
No, the first fight was the centaur that threw kobolds at you. No, I think it was like the third fight.
Okay.
But
Either
yeah.
way, the PvP fight is universally almost like hated in that way because like anytime they do that where the tanks aren't in a hard roll or the healers are doing something different than they normally do, there's pushback. And I wouldn't want to see Guild Wars 2 fall into the same kind of trap. You know, I feel like now they can do almost anything. Like I love the Slothazor fight just because that is just so hilarious and wonderful to me, just the concept of that fight. I wouldn't want every fight to be like that though. Like that would be terrible. And I feel like if they went to more of like feeding into the Trinity all of the time, they would be just stuck more. They would have less freedom to do random crazy things like that.
And on the flip side, I'm also an advocate for like less RNG in certain situations because I do remember in trying to progress against Matthias, I remember watching my wife get hit with the rolling debuffs that you have to like either leave the raid group or get to the fountains with as the person who was the target 4 times in a row. And it's just like it gets to a point where it's just like you have no more movement or healing cooldowns to sustain yourself through it, and you die in the middle of the raid group and you drop the poison or the explosion effect.
Mm-hmm.
So like there are situations where yes, RNG is terrible and there needs to be some kind of like protection against it. Now that only ever happened once that I can recall when progressing Matthias. But like that's an example where there needs to be some minor amount of protection on that. But I just... And then what? The one part of Matthias is he always... Matthias was like, he always targeted the person that was farthest away from him. If I recall correctly. So that was another option.
Yeah.
Maybe.
But either way, like... I think they do have, like what Arlia said, is like the soft trinity. Like, where they're at now is a good compromise to allow for the design of giving someone the ability to control the boss. Like, without just having an out and out, here is the tank, and they build a threat value, and the highest threat value is the person the tank targets. Now, from what you said, KROOF, and I believe what... I can't remember who else said it in chat, taunt being a way to, like...
Oh, Flint? Yeah.
Yeah, to, like, redirect the boss if the boss is going to do something to someone who is squishy.
Mm-hmm.
I think that could actually make good use as, like, a special action key in a boss fight. Like, say, for example, in Slothazor, you had, like, a special kind of spear that you could, like, huck at the boss in order to force it to target you, and that had an incredibly long cooldown. It would be similar to, like, calling the NPC over for the escort in Wing 3, in Wing 3. I always mix up where that is. Except, you know, there'd be a large cooldown tied to it.
Yeah, and Desmina's fight uses that method, and I think that is a very successful use of it. I'm just kind of sad that it's not used more often. I think that was the only fight that was like used, and then they didn't do anything else for any of the other raid bosses.
Which I wonder if like people were just honestly complaining about the escort mission just because it was an escort mission, because escort missions in MMOs and well gaming in general are kind of... I mean, which one was the...
Because
the
usually NPCs are dumb.
Well, what was the one Resident Evil with the President's daughter?
Oh, I have no idea.
It was 4. Thank you, dear. Leon. It was like with Leon and the President's daughter, and the entire game is a big escort mission, and it's just like you just kind of want to shove. Like I've seen numerous comics of like Leon just shoving her into a barrel and saying "Stay here." So
yeah.
But
remind me after so I have a funny escort mission story with Witcher 3 I want to tell you guys.
Oh no. But I think we've pretty much exhausted that, except for getting into more rambling about things, and that's after show is for ramble.
Mm-hmm.
But now we've got not the forums, but we got the Reddits.
Reddit.
Ooh, I've seen some good things on Reddit recently.
I loathe Reddit.
Good
as a
or
format.
actually good?
Like good like discussion.
Okay.
But
Okay.
Good discussion about Guild Wars 2 and all.
from Reddit user Rikzer, Rikzer. See, I think Commander Riker from Star Wars Next Generation, so I think Rikzer. Tell me what made you fall in love with this game. Answers in the thread range from players who play Guild Wars 1, farming professions, skins, farming, professions, skins, story, the mounts, the combat, the shared loots and the shared loot and the shared nodes and other parts. So I suppose we could just gush a little bit about the things we love about Guild Wars 2 for a few minutes. So whoever wants to take it away.
I love gushing. It's like a gusher. I guess I'll go first.
Yeah.
I don't know. I fell in love with Guild Wars 2. I don't know what year it was, like 2010, 2000. Since its manifesto, the trailer kind of got me, and then I guess I kind of just shrugged along with it, and then I saw all like the alpha and beta footage, and I don't know what it was, but it looked so interesting. I love the old beta footage. And it was just like it felt so new. It was so actiony, which was so divergent from like World of Warcraft.
Mhm.
And yeah, Guild Wars 2 really did kind of reinvent its wheel. I don't know about the wheel, but it has its own stake in the MMO community, and I think Internet made a really good game as a whole. Now the Zaitan boss fight is a whole nother questionable thing, but I don't know.
It's
I
also
like it for
a
a lot of
rich iteration of it.
F's in chat for
Yeah,
the Zaitan
yeah,
boss fight
yeah.
design.
Oh no, poor Zaitan, poor Ziddle. But yeah, in terms of right now, I like it just for like the gameplay and like the direction.
I can piggyback my gushing off of what KROOF said there. Is like I can't play other MMOs anymore. Like I played Guild Wars 2 for like Arlie got me back to playing Guild Wars 2 for a bit, and I was also
It's all my fault.
I was going between that and Rift, and I cannot.
Oh,
I cannot
Me
play.
too.
I stopped playing Rift because I couldn't. And not to mention, like, as a programmer, I started messing with the macro system, and since there's no, or at the time, like, the concept of a global cooldown was not a thing in Rift, so you could literally bind your entire DPS priority to a single button and just tap that button.
Oh, the good old
Ow.
days.
I never realized that.
Yep.
I didn't get that far into it.
It would just, like, the macro would just go down the list, and whatever was off cooldown, it would hit that first, and that's where the macro would end. So you would literally just tap that button, and that's all you had to do. But, like, Guild Wars 2, you don't have to target things. Like, you literally do not have to ever have a target in the entirety of the game. It helps because it lets you see the health bar, but...
That blew my, like, 10-year-old mind. I was like, you can swing a sword without having anything targetable? I was like, are you kidding me?
Well, I mean, it was the same thing for me, because even before I played World of Warcraft, I played BioWare's old top-down D&D RPGs. And, like, everything based on D&D, everything you have to do has a target. Like, you have to be able to point at something to execute the attack. So, just the ability to just kind of hold one and have your auto attack chain go off. And it's like I have a Logitech G600, it's got the side panel on it, and when I'm fighting anybody who has any kind of stealth in PvP, I just hold one, and I know if I'm getting onto my second attack in the attack chain, I'm hitting them. Mm-hmm. So, like, not only can you swing your weapon, you can swing a sword, to quote the video, I can't even remember the title of it from way back when, but I can swing a sword, and if my auto attack pattern changes, I know I'm doing it right. So, it well and truly is the combat system in Guild Wars 2. I recently started playing BDO, and it is slightly better than a standard tab target game. Like, there's action and input commands to it, and I can see the depth to it. but yeah, it really is the combat system.
That's cool. For me, like, I never played Guild Wars 1. And then they gave out beta codes at PAX East when they did the Future of MMO panel, which I was at. And so I got that and I tried it out. And the first thing that got me was being a mesmer with a greatsword, because I was like, I can be a caster with a greatsword? What the fuck? Like, I was like, holy shit, that's crazy. So that's what first got me into it. And then as I kept with it, like, honestly, the story, I know all the jokes, the personal story was not and is not perfect, but I really liked it. I enjoyed it. And then the continuing story as they've developed it over the years is one of the main reasons why I keep up with it. But also I love that out of all the MMOs I play, it's the one that I can go into and be like, what do I want to do? What do I feel like doing today? And I know that, like, if any of my friends want to be like, hey, you want to come play with me? I can go play with them. I don't have to like grind months and months of content to catch up or get back together with them or whatever. Like, there's literally anything I can hop into and be like, yeah, sure, let's play. It's just, that's such a huge bonus for me, because in all the other games, like especially Final Fantasy 14, I love Final Fantasy 14, but I'm a constant leaver and returner for that game just because I can never catch up to everybody. Because partly I want to see the story I'm missing because the story is good, but also like it's just I'm so far behind and it always is moving forward. I'll never catch up. And then WoW, I have to stay on the cutting edge because I'm a raider. We raid. I'm a main tank. So I have to be at the top for my guild. So anytime I play, I have a list of things I have to do every time I play. So like for me, Guild Wars 2 is all about freedom and doing what I want. And that's just a special thing for me.
And what about you, Age?
For most people like me, it's like you play Guild Wars 1, so it's like you play Guild Wars 2. From my old Guild Wars 1 guild, we played for a year, and then most of them kind of like either dropped off or like went back to Guild Wars 1. A friend of mine stuck with Guild Wars 2 with me for about maybe 2-3 years, then kind of like dropped off too. But yeah, I stayed pretty much for combat, World vs. World PvP. Those were my main kind of like reasons, and then like I got into guilds and meet people along the way too. So
then you decided to start doing a podcast.
Oh God.
I feel like I was tricked into it, but yeah.
You're tricked. Deo promised you something, a treat, and then you showed up one day and you were stuck.
Yeah.
And now all Deo talks about is nerfing Thief.
Oh no. Thieves do need nerves though. I'm gonna say
There
that.
are some
Yay!
niche.
Hey, I like her.
There are some niche problems with Thief, I do agree, but the niche problems is.
I could go if you want. I mean,
No.
I've
Okay,
talked before.
so honestly, I was gonna say honestly, the Thief joke goes back to when I was doing Zero to Hero with Malthanis, and I was playing my Reaper because I like Reaper in PvP. I don't care that like it's not the best thing or whatever. I like it. But it was right after Daredevil had come out, and Daredevil were the one thing at that point that like I just couldn't do anything with because they'd be so far away from me and shooting me, and I just couldn't get to them. I was like, God, just kill them, get rid of them, So that's where the joke originally came from. And we just kept it going.
Deadeye, you mean, or?
No, it
Huh?
was Daredevil.
Deadeye.
Condi Deadeye, or no, Condi Daredevil.
It was whatever the long range rifle
That's
thing.
Deadeye then. You said
That's
you said
Deadeye. Okay, that's what I
They both
meant.
start with
Sorry.
D.
This stupid thief things. Just get rid of all of it.
I would love if every elite spec of the thief just starts with a D.
That's just something they keep going forever.
Yeah, I'd be down.
And then we get duelist for the next one.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes.
There we. Hey. Ah.
Oh yeah.
I got burnt down by a thief yesterday, so I'm a little biased. But continue.
Yeah.
It's okay. I have a thing against rangers, so it's okay.
Hey,
Good thing I'm not a ranger.
Rangers are great, though. Why would you not like Rangers?
Because
All
the
they
longbow
do-
tracks through stealth.
Yeah, and they just all they do is stay 1,500 range and shoot you, and then they laugh and laugh and laugh. And I just,
Yeah. It's because we're awesome.
Yeah, no. I think you're so
Aw.
great. Anyway, but yeah, it's coming through, and then
Sorry.
but yeah,
Got
no
me.
combat, World PvP.
Oh my god, if I could have a pocket raptor, like a little horde of pocket raptors as a ranger, that would be amazing. Because like it can't just be one, it has to be like the whole little horde that you stick together. Because I mean, who's ever seen one pocket raptor by itself? That doesn't happen.
When I kill the rest of its family and that one orphan is there, I let that stay.
Oh,
But
then do you
respawn
kill the
very
orphan
quickly.
or like, come on?
No, I let it suffer in the wild by itself.
Oh my god.
Survival of the fittest.
And briefly, I know that we haven't done this in a while. We do have some Gemstore stuff to mention, just because we can skip it
Gemstore.
if y'all don't care. I can just go through it real quick if that's preferable. So we've got the Wolfheart Sword and Shield on the Gemstore, which looks pretty cool. Like, they look nice.
I wish they had included Ram, because every time I hear Wolfheart, my brain is like, Wolfheart Ram? Like, come on.
Yeah. But like,
Sorry.
they look good. I honestly didn't even look up the gem prices, and probably like in the 400 to 600 range, like all the other individual
I
skins.
don't know. Those are pretty fancy.
I think
Might
they're
be more
600.
expensive. Yeah.
600 sounds about right.
Yeah.
But
It's gonna do.
then
See, it's all your fault we have smoke scales. All your fault, KROOF.
Oh my god.
Wait, that was your fault? Why?
The orphan raptors turn into smoke scales and they get their revenge.
That's why I always die.
Yeah. It goes full circle. I like it. Perfect.
Smoke skills are the worst.
And then apparently after the Wolfheart stuff, we also have Halloween stuff coming back to the Gemstore.
Hey, a little early though.
I mean,
It's shocking.
there are people who want Halloween to be a 365-day thing, so
Quite that much, but more often it would be cool. Yeah.
I can only handle so much candy corn. I mean-
Well, yeah.
well, that's one of the things that I kind of shook my head at when I was doing the farming to get my shoulder pieces for Dragon Bash. Is one of the annuals is eat 1,000 pieces of Zytaffy, and all I can imagine is just sitting through and eating like just a piece of saltwater taffy about this big, but eating 1,000 of them and just one right after the other, and I can't.
When I was a kid, I could do that. Now, not so much.
But returning today, Executioner's outfit, Ghostly outfit, Mad King's outfit. That was the 21st, so that was 4 days ago. And then over the course of the week, the Mini Choya Pumpkin Gang, the Grenth Hood, the Phantom's Hood, the Faux Fire stuff, the Mantle, the Greaves, and the Wraps, the Mad King Mounts Pack, the Ferocious Cat Ears, the Devil Horns, the White and Black Wing Glider combos, and then Black Lion Key and Scrap Package. So, just a little bit of Halloween stuff coming back. It is what it is.
I thought it was a bug at first, but I'm like, why at the end?
I know.
Did somebody press the wrong button?
Look, there are
It's not
people.
time to get spoopy.
There are people who are hoping that Halloween happens this year. So
Yeah.
maybe this is just kind of a trying little.
No. Not in California and not in Florida.
Yeah.
Well, I was seeing a lot of people
Probably not.
talk about how kids should just sit in their yards and adults should drive around and just throw the candy out.
Throw candy at them. No, but if that is happening, I will gladly throw a giant Snickers bar at a kid's face.
I'm just
I would,
imagining
like,
people
I
going
would be
away.
like trying to aim for their forehead, be like, yeah.
Well, I'm just imagining people going around with like potato guns, like on low power and like shotgunning candy out.
I heard gun. I got loved.
No, just the air-powered like PVC pipe potato guns.
Yeah.
Just shooting a bunch of candy corn at them, like shrapnel. Oh God.
Oh my gosh.
That's why I said low power.
Candy.
No, we gotta go big or go home.
Ugh.
Mhm.
That's
Teach those kids early. Dodge.
press V.
You're a
Double
thief. You
tap.
have 3 dodges.
Just remind me of like Team 4 Stars Dragon Ball, and there's
God.
anyway.
Yay.
I'm just imagining like KROOF going around, candy, shoots someone. Candy.
I love
But yeah, that was just a quick rundown of the Gemstore stuff. All of the stuff that's coming back for the Halloween stuff is apparently also on sale. So if any of that was stuff you were looking for, might be in a price that you're okay with now. Now we've got Community Corner, which for a gentleman in chat, Mr. QED, Discretize has updated their website. They done got their fractal calculator,
Yay.
fractal profession and mechanics guides with augmentation calculators and gear optimizers. And
Nice.
QED has shot me the link before some of the releases a while ago. This thing is solid. So if you're looking to get into fractals and stuff, like this is a seriously really good resource to make use of. I can only nod so much.
Cool.
Hey.
That
Oh my
and just
gosh.
the website looks good. So like kudos
So-
to whoever does the.
Like, I'm sorry, I just have to. I haven't looked at the site before, but I clicked into their builds to look at Weaver, what they have for that. And like, I always say I play whatever random setup that I made up. I don't look at what's best. I don't care about the meta. Like, I do what I want, basically. But their Weaver build is almost exactly what I actually run, which is amazing to me.
Well, that was I think something Deo said about his like launch Herald build where he was like Glint Jalix. And he kept it so long just because he liked the theming of it, and then it came around and it was good for him, and he was just like, I knew I'd be right eventually.
That's amazing.
I
Yeah.
was right about the support firebrand.
Support Firebrand. I play. I play I play Condi Quick Brand, and I hate mantras. I hate mantras so much.
You know what? I really hate the mantras, and well, that's a different topic.
Yeah.
That's an after show topic. So
But
we're gonna.
I just want to point out in the builds on this, one thing I like about it is the layout. It's not overwhelming. Like some of the layouts I've seen for builds, it's just like, oh God, so much information. But this is set up in a really easy to digest way and just like see the information. They give you situation skills and traits that are useful in certain situations. And then they have a little section for defiance bar damage to teach you which skills to use for that, which is like a huge thing to me. Like, that's awesome. I really like that. Yay. That's all I wanted to say.
Trying to. There we go. So, the next step is we have, next up on Community Corner, we have Arena Labs, a Guild Wars 2 PvP podcast.
Yes.
And there is the Reddit link for their introduction. Recently started a podcast dedicated to Guild Wars 2 PvP. Our aim is to have a platform where top players can come and share their experiences and tips with the community while having a laugh along the way. There are also links to the community PvP Discord and mention of PvP training areas called in-house leagues. Players can use it as a gym to practice builds, duels, or situations with others. This is then commented over in Discord by high-ranked players. This is a great way to learn what you are doing right and what you are doing wrong. Which, probably everything, considering when I first got into PvP, it was Rampager's Amulet on my Ranger running longbow, shortbow.
That sounds awesome, but I really hope that, like, they're good-natured about it, like, in critiquing other people, because it could be really easy to be like, wow, you suck. Like, you know?
Yeah. Like, it's one of those things where it's like, as long as there is you suck and here's why, and how to get better, but instead of just you suck lol, that's where things are bad. But, like, if we do the other thing where, you know, it's constructive and we can all have a laugh, it's like I look back at my old Ranger build and I laugh at myself. Because I was very, like, it worked. Kind of. But, like, I was also playing nothing but unranked. I will admit, Guild Wars 2 PvP also got me over my anxiety of playing PvP. Because I didn't even like playing PvP in, like, League of Legends or World of Warcraft. Like, I got into Guild Wars 2 PvP, I'm like, it's unranked, and I'm going to think of them as bots. Like, that's their particularly well-running
That's probably
bots,
the best way to approach PvP, really, in any game. Just think of everybody else as bots.
I mean, it's not far from the truth in unranked, to be honest.
Yeah.
Wait, you're right! Oh, that was layered. Oh, that was layered. Oh, that was so good.
What
I just caught
unranked. It's in ranked too, but
oh, it's in ranked. Oh, it is in ranked.
but
Oh God, that was a good one, H.
Except in ranked, they talk.
yeah, that too.
Oh.
But finally, as we normally do when we have special guests on KROOF, is there anything you would like to shout out, including your own content for Community Corner?
I don't know. Just, give me your money. No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, at least you're honest.
No, I have a YouTube channel. I make build videos. I make essay style videos, discussion videos, Guild Wars 2 and beyond, in terms of MMOs or just like games I'm interested. Primarily Guild Wars 2. I stream
that is where you
on
would put your Crucible content.
Oh my God, we are not talking about that game at all. There you go. I have since hid those videos, a couple of them, but
Oh no.
yeah, I also stream on Twitch. I'm doing it more so now, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. Yeah.
Is that twitch.tv/KROOF Gaming?
Yes, KROOF Gaming _ I need to look into changing that if I can. Because I've let go of the gaming. That's another me. We're just KROOF now.
See, I looked at your Twitter account and it had your YouTube channel and I didn't see Twitch, so I wasn't sure. But
oh no, it's fine. Twitch is a lesser project.
Okay,
but
that's fair.
It's there. It's there.
Thank
you.
But I'm happy to give the shout out because thank you for being on the show. And
of course, anytime.
I do think that will also end it for today as we come close to 2 hours, which honestly wasn't as bad as I thought considering how we got off topic with Jormag Rising and raids and all that other stuff. But so I suppose we can go to the outro stuff. And Arlie, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitch, Twitter, and Instagram at Arlie82. Yay!
Yay! And then we go to Age.
You can find me on Twitch and YouTube at Age Nerd. I got nothing much going on right now. With all this pandemic stuff, work gets layered with stuff. So yeah, fun times, yo.
And then finally, I guess you kind of already did it, but KROOF.
Oh, I'm going again? Okay, just to reinstate, please give me your money. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah. I hate myself so much sometimes. But yeah, follow me at KROOF on YouTube. I have a Twitter at KROOF Gaming. And yeah, I post stuff on occasion.
Huzzah. And you can find me on Twitter at MalthanusMMO. You can also find me here on twitch.tv/MadRealms. 2 A's in the Mad. Every Wednesday at 8 o'clock ish for stuff. I was playing Borderlands 3. I finished that off stream, which I actually rather enjoyed that. Screw it. Maybe I'll just get back into PvP. I haven't been in PvP in Guild Wars 2 in forever. So
Let's do it.
Maybe I'll hop back in there on this upcoming Wednesday and bring Zero to Hero back, and we'll see what I can do with my really, really, really rusty skills and builds. So, yeah. So I hope to see you all there. So, ladies and gentlemen, that has been Talking Skritt for this week. You all have a fantastic evening. Good night, everybody.
Bye, guys.